If you're watching this video today, the day that it's released, it's Thanksgiving 2022, November the 24th, 2022 to be exact. And if you're watching it the day that it's released, I am actually at work right now. I'm a police officer. I'm working on Thanksgiving. And I have a message I want to share with you all about Thanksgiving. Can we please, for the love of God, retire this stupid meme? I'm so freaking tired of seeing this thing. I'm going to get serious in a moment here, but for God's sake, this thing has been going around Facebook for as long as Facebook has existed, and it's every single holiday. Thanks to the people eating at this table, and then they put insert holiday at the bottom. This drives me crazy. There's a lot of reasons for this. First of all, nobody eats their holiday meal in their car. Just because we're police officers working on the holiday doesn't mean that we're spending 24 hours of our holiday sitting in our car. It doesn't mean that we're spending 24 hours of our holiday at work away from our family. I am fortunate enough now that I work first shift. So I go to work at 7. I get off at 3 in the afternoon. A lot of my coworkers go to work at 6 o'clock. They get off at 2 in the afternoon. Second shift guys go in at 3 and work to 11. Or they work from 2 to 10. Or third shift guys work in the middle of the night. Almost all of us find time either before we go to work or right after we get off work to have our holiday meal. The ones that don't have it on a separate day. It's really not that big a deal. The other side of that is a lot of guys that are working will bring in giant trays of leftovers. Or I've been a police officer for a long time, and one thing that's been really neat that I've seen in the community that I work for is that people will actually bring food to the substation. Local restaurants will package up and deliver meals. Local residents will make pies, make turkeys. Block watch organizations, different community organizations, churches, they will load up tremendous amounts of food and bring it to the substation to the point that it's too much food. It's more food than we can eat. And quite frankly, the majority of it goes bad. And it kind of makes me sad when I see people bringing that much food to the sub. But the moral of the story is I'm not eating my holiday meal in my car. And I'm also not being deprived of a holiday meal by working on Thanksgiving. And I want to make sure that that is perfectly clear. And I just, for the love of God, please stop sharing this meme. Everybody out there, the police supporter pages, the police wife pages, all of you, stop sharing this godforsaken meme. It is the worst thing on the planet. I can't stand it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now I want to move on. But moving on to a more serious topic. I want to talk about working on Thanksgiving. And I want to talk a little bit about about that meme, but not really. One of the reasons I don't like that meme is that it makes it look like police officers are like some kind of victim. And we live in a society where everybody is out there trying to claim victim status for one reason or another. And it just paints the picture as like you're supposed to have sympathy for police officers because they're not home with their families and, they have to eat their meal some other way. And I wish people would not look at it that way. When you're a police officer or a firefighter, a lot of these different people that are working holidays, you choose to work this job because service is something that you value. Service to your community is something that's important to you. It's something that enriches your heart, something that fills you up and makes you happy. I've worked a lot of holidays. I think I've worked, in the 11 years I've been a police officer, I think I've worked every single Thanksgiving. I've worked quite a few Christmases and quite a few Christmas Eves. My very first holiday season as a police officer, I remember working Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. There's something special about working those days. especially in the area where I work in a very economically deprived neighborhood. It's overrun with crime. It's overrun with drugs and prostitution. It's the things that go on in that neighborhood aren't things that go on in other neighborhoods. And people who don't live there don't understand what it is. I can't tell you how many times I have been in a house on a call on a holiday where there were no holiday things happening in that house. I've been at houses on Easter where there's no Easter baskets and no candy for the children. When I worked third shift, I remember talking to kids, asking if they were going to have a big Thanksgiving meal the next day, and they didn't even know what was going on. And that actually kind of reminds me of a story I might have shared on the channel before, but it's one of my most memorable Thanksgivings that I ever worked. And it wasn't memorable because, you know, it was tragic or anything like that. It was just, it was an incident that really stands out in my mind, almost because it appeared to be so insignificant. I was working third shift in this neighborhood that is just overwrought with crime and poverty. And I think it was 1 or 2 in the morning. I responded to a call to a bus stop. Somebody called in because they said it looked like there was a 12 or a 13-year-old boy who was sitting at the bus stop, and they were afraid that he was up to no good. That's what a lot of our calls say. So I respond to this bus stop. I pull up and I find this kid, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He told me that he was waiting on the bus. I asked him if he knew what time it was. He said he wasn't quite sure, but he tried to leave his friend's house knowing that the last bus was going to run at 11 o'clock. It was now, 1 or 2 in the morning. I can't quite remember. He didn't know how long he'd been sitting there, but he was actually being a very well-behaved kid, doing what he was expected to do, sitting there waiting for the bus. And he didn't know how long he was going to have to wait. He even told me that he might have missed the last bus and that he was going to have to sit and wait at that bus stop until the morning buses started to run. And I asked him, where do you live? And he told me he lives on the other side of the city. And then, it was one of those kind of moments where you're trying to make sense of the situation. I'm like, well, you live on the other side of the city. What were you doing over here? He said, I was over here playing with my friends. I ride the bus from that side of the city over to this side of the city because that's where my friends from school live. And I asked him, well, did you come over here to have Thanksgiving dinner with your friends? And he looks up at me and he goes, today was Thanksgiving? This was a child who was sitting at a bus stop in a high crime area that's overrun with drug activity and prostitution activity. It's a very violent neighborhood where it's pretty common to have at least one shooting every single day in this neighborhood. This child was 12 years old, sitting at a bus stop in this neighborhood. And the house that he spent his entire day at playing with his friends was not celebrating Thanksgiving. The other side of that is that wherever he came from, on the other side of town, they weren't celebrating Thanksgiving either. They didn't care that their child got onto a COTA bus early in the morning and went all the way across town to play with his friends because Thanksgiving didn't mean anything to them either. I ended up giving the kid a ride home, and I think I had some snacks in my lunchbox or something that I gave him. I think I had some sweets because we get a lot of extra stuff on Thanksgiving. But it really struck me. And that's kind of the reason that I want to talk about how this, don't treat me like a victim. Don't be sorry for me that I have to work Thanksgiving. I enjoy working Thanksgiving. I've made the choices that I've made in my life, and I've chosen a career that I've chosen because I enjoy serving my community. When I'm working on Thanksgiving, I know that my family is home safe and sound, and that either earlier in that day, later that day, maybe the next day, I'm going to have a really fine meal. But I get to serve a community that needs to be able to see people like me that can help provide a stable environment for people like that 12-year-old. Undoubtedly, tomorrow while I'm working, well, today, if you're watching this video, on Thanksgiving 2022, I guarantee I will be dispatched to at least one call of domestic violence. It's going to be a holiday where a lot of family gets together. It's supposed to be a very joyous time. Some people are going to start drinking. They're not going to get along. Violence is going to occur, and I'm going to have to respond. When I respond, I'm going to walk into a house that's full of adults and children that are yelling and screaming and that are completely out of control. And when I respond, my actions are going to be such that the house becomes calm. And the children in that house are going to be able to see me, a police officer, walk into this environment of absolute chaos. And they're going to see how my actions cause everyone else to calm down. They're going to see my actions make the situation better. They're going to remember that day, that it was a holiday, that their whole family was in town, everything went bad, and the thing that made it better was a police officer arriving on scene. That's why I do this job. That's how I know that I'm doing the right thing. So when I'm working on Thanksgiving, I don't want your pity. I don't want you to look at me like I'm a victim. I'm not eating my meal at this table. I'm out serving my community, doing the thing that I love doing almost more than anything else in my life. I will say to everybody that's out there serving their communities or serving overseas, this, that, and the other thing, everybody who serves, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for making sure that the world is safe for my family so that they can sit home and enjoy a wonderful meal today. Those are going to be my thoughts for today. Happy Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you later.